Matt H says, why do Niner fans make such a big deal about Jimmy's lack of social media presence? You don't have to post an IG video to prove you're working out. Maybe I'm old. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I agree with that.
That's a
I
good point.
agree with that. But
Yeah.
okay, so by the way, if you ever write any articles, don't say anything bad about the supposed starting quarterback because it'll turn into a 72-hour fest of just going back and forth with people. I've completely shut off my Twitter basically, other than a post or two. And I pull up every time I leave Twitter for 30 minutes, I've got 40 messages on this post that of the article I wrote. But anyways, with that being said, here's what I'll say about Jimmy. And this is my biggest argument when people are like, well, he's still going to start. He's still going to start. You know, Trey working out with these players in the offseason, that means nothing. It does mean something. You go find me one backup quarterback that has worked with all the starting receiving weapons on a team when the starting quarterback hasn't done so himself. Find me one, and I'll stop with the whole Lance starting week 1 train. I don't believe it exists. Now, I've heard of quarterbacks working with these guys, but it was almost as a secondary once they were done working with the starting quarterback. I have never seen it in an offseason where the starter does no work with these guys individually and the backup's doing all the work. It doesn't exist. Trey Lance is starting week 1.
Yeah, and the thing about Jimmy's social media presence, it's the contrast with Lance. You got a quarterback competition. You got one guy who's clearly doing everything in his power to win the job.
Yep.
He's showing the fans what he's doing. He's working out with the starting receivers. He's like really not leaving this up to chance. And then you have the other guy in radio silence.
Yeah.
It's like, well, he might be doing what he needs to do, but we don't know. And it doesn't seem like he wants us to know. And the one time we see anything from him, he's at a wedding, which he's entitled to go to. But it's like,
sure, absolutely.
It's like, yo, can't we? I don't know. I don't know. I guess we're making too much out of it, but it's just a stark contrast between him and Trey Lance. This is all I can say.
I don't need the social media presence. I do not need that, but I want to hear something. And I'm not a big Instagram guy, so I don't know what Trey's posting on his Instagram. But what I can say as far as Twitter comes, the reason that there's footage out there of Trey is because everybody else is posting footage of Trey Lance. If Jimmy's working with these guys, it's not going to go unheard. We're going to see some sort of clip, or we're going to hear some sort of inside information that he's working out with these guys. He's just not doing it. Doesn't mean he's not working. He's just not working with teammates.
True. Most of the players gravitate to Trey on and off the field. Jimmy, you're not that guy, pal. I think that I actually was in the locker room. They all gravitated to Jimmy. He came from New England. He doesn't big time you. He's kind of like he seemed like the kind of guy who was in frat. He's just very one of the guys. I like Jimmy.
Yeah.
He's like it's like you can't help but like him. But I get the feeling also that he's distant. They kind of mention like, hey, it's hard to get in touch with them and
doesn't return texts.
If he's distant and he doesn't return to the field and maybe players are starting to feel like, well, at least Trey wants to be here. At least Trey is trying to play me on Madden.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's going back to Jimmy. People think it's like, oh, Jimmy's a good guy and it's a personal attack that how dare you say anything bad about him? And listen, if Jimmy's starting week 1, I'm rooting for him just like I will Trey. And as a person, I think Jimmy's a fine person. He's handled himself, again, better than anybody probably could have in this situation. But I don't think he wants to be here, and I don't think he cares if he's the starter. That's just the feeling I get from him.
I get the same feeling too. I don't think he wants to be here. Period. If he wanted to be here, he would have made it his business to play those last 2 games. Yep. He would have said something like, I want to be out there with my teammates. I don't care if I'm 50%. I got to be out there. Kittle's going to go. Jimmy Ward's going to go. That never happened. So.
Anyway, and I'll say it again. He wasn't even wearing Niners gear. What does that tell you? That says something.
Players think about that thing. Like, one last thing, we'll move on. Toward the end with Kevin Durant on the Warriors, I was covering that season when I was with the Press Democrat. He was very angry the whole year, right? And he was making it known that he was going to leave by kind of pouting his way out. And I remember he would wear not a Warriors hat to press conferences, but a black hat with a number 7 on it. And I didn't know what it meant. No one knew what it meant. It was a Nets hat, essentially, with his new number and the Nets color. And what he was saying was, I'm out. Mm-hmm. I already know where I'm going. And it was code, and we didn't know. So people think about their sartorial choices.
Well, yeah, Kawhi Leonard is getting ripped because he was sitting in the press box instead of sitting with his team once he hurt his knee. And
he did the same
Jimmy's
thing.
doing the same thing, which I get. I mean, Kittle was up there too, but Kittle's wearing a 49ers hat and a 49ers, long sleeve shirt or whatever.
And he's talking in the 49ers state of the franchise, Jimmy.
Nothing.
Usually the quarterback would talk. Like if this was 1996 and they had a state of the franchise, Steve Young would have talked.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not going to mention Steve Young in this video. Guys, don't talk about Steve Young.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We didn't tell him it was going to be. We're just going to go with no.